If you're watching this video, you probably already know this, but giant robots are cool. And you know what's even cooler than giant robots? Giant robots that combine into even bigger giant robots. And we've got plenty of those in Wing Raiders, which is available now. The Super Quantum theme is made up of pilots, their own individual robots, and the super robot, Super Quantal Mech King Great Magnus, that they can all combine into. Great Magnus is a rank 12 monster, but there are other ways to summon it, as we'll see. But to start with the strategy, first you have to start with the pilots. Super Quantal Red Layer, level 5, but you can special summon them if you have no monsters on the field. And when you normal or special summon them, you can add any Super Quantum card from your graveyard back to your hand. And then if this guy is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon back a Super Quantum monster from your graveyard, but you can't use its effects. This is kind of the theme with the pilots. They all have an effect that happens when they're normal or special summoned, and another one that happens when they're sent to the graveyard. Super Quantum Green Layer, when he's normal or special summoned, lets you summon another Super Quantum monster from your hand. That's particularly useful, say, if you have Super Quantum Blue Layer here, who when normal or special summoned lets you add a Super Quantum card from your deck to your hand. When Green Layer is sent to the graveyard, you can send another Super Quantum card from your hand to the graveyard to draw one card. And of course, if that's one of these guys, then you're going to get to use another effect as well. So you could send Red Layer to the graveyard, draw a card, and then special summon back a different monster from your graveyard. And when Super Quantum Blue Layer is sent to the graveyard, she shuffles back up to 3 Super Quantum cards from your deck to your hand. Now the eventual goal for this deck is to get all 3 of these cards together while you have this field spell, Super Quantal Mech Ship Magna Carrier, on the field. What Magna Carrier lets you do is Xyz summon using only one material by discarding a card from your hand. So, if you can summon all 3 of these and discard 3 cards to Xyz summon each of the machines, you can then send Magna Carrier to the graveyard to combine everything together into one 6 material rank 12 Xyz monster with 3600 attack that prevents your opponent from adding cards from the deck to your hand. That is totally unaffected by everything else card effect wise except for other cards of this theme, and during each turn can shuffle back any card on the field into the deck without even targeting it. Oh, and it has 3600 attack. Just thought I'd throw that up there as well. Each individual machine also has a pair of powers that are extremely useful. Super Quantal Mech Beast Grand Pulse can destroy any spell or trap on the field once per turn by detaching a material, and that becomes a quick effect if Blue Layer is one of its materials. Now it can't attack if it has no materials, but you can keep adding more materials onto this and the other Super Quantal Xyz monsters by attaching Super Quantum cards from your hand or field to them as Xyz materials. Generally you'll want to play this monster in defense. It's got 2800 defense. Next up, you have Super Quantal Mech Beast Magnaliger. Magnaliger can destroy monsters by detaching. It's kind of like Consular Pleiades. 2600 attack makes it bigger than Pleiades, and it's a generic 2 level 5 monster Xyz summon. If it has Red Layer as its material, it can also use that effect during either player's turn as a quick effect, making it pretty much Pleiades except bigger. And finally, Super Quantal Mech Beast Ouroboros. 2200 attack, 2400 defense, so it's pretty good in either attack position or defense position. And its effect lets you detach to flip monsters on the field face down. And it becomes a quick effect, a la Book of Moon, if you have Green Layer as a material. Now, to get all 3 onto the field at the same time, it could require a bit of trickery. And that is where the rest of the deck is going to come in. So obviously, you're going to play 3 each of the pilots. Red Layer, who incidentally, Red Layer and Blue Layer, you might be seeing these cards in a Monarch deck very soon. We found that they're actually pretty useful as a tribute engine, in addition to being used for Xyz summons. So you have 3 of each of the pilots. You're also going to use 3 of their animal companions, Super Quantal Fairy Alphan, which has 2 abilities of its own. One lets you match the levels of all of your monsters on the field to that of one of your pilots, and the other lets you tribute it to choose 3 different Super Quantum monsters from your deck, randomly special summon 1, and send the rest to the graveyard. Not only does that get you at least 1 on the field, you're also going to trigger the effects of all 3, except 1 will be the on-field effect, and the other 2 will be the graveyard effect. So you definitely want to play 3 of all of these. Because you get those abilities when they go to the graveyard as well, 2-card Trooper is also pretty good here. Because you want to go first most of the time to get your disruptive Xyz monsters on the field. I'm also including Traptrix Myrmidon, just 1 copy, which lets you search out any whole normal trap card when she's normal summoned, and if you special summon, you get to destroy a spell or trap that your opponent controls. Both effects will actually come into play quite frequently. Also including Electromagnetic Turtle. The Turtle's just a level 4 monster most of the time, but if you get it in your hand, it's the perfect thing to discard for Magna Carrier, since you can banish this during your opponent's battle phase, just end the battle phase completely. And that's it for monsters. Next up, spells. We're definitely going to run 3 copies of the field spell, Magna Carrier. Super Quantum Blue Lair is a level 3 Psychic type monster, and she's also the one that searches a Super Quantum card when summoned. So we're going to play 3 copies of Emergency Teleport. That lets you summon her straight from the deck, or hand if you absolutely have to, and that'll trigger the search effect. Adding a little bit of unpredictability, but also a lot more summoning power, is Reasoning. Reasoning forces your opponent to choose a level, and then you start flipping cards from the top of your deck, excavating them. Actually, this card has been updated, it now excavates. You excavate cards until you hit a monster you can normal summon. If it's the same level as the one your opponent declared, all the cards go to the graveyard, which would set off the ability of your pilots. Or if they're wrong, the monster summoned, which also sets off the ability of your pilots. So either way, the result's going to be pretty good. Generally when you play Reasoning, if your opponent doesn't know what you're playing, they're going to choose 1, thinking that you are an Infernoid duelist. So the only time that this really goes wrong is if they call 1 and get it right. But the only level 1 is Alphan, so the odds are pretty much in your favor. So we're going to use a couple copies of Instant Fusion. Instant Fusion is there for Elder Entity Norden. Specifically, you're going to use it to bring back Green Layer and use them to summon Ouroboros. 1-for-1 makes it easier to summon Alphan, which is important because getting that special summon and 2 other effects all at the same time is incredibly good, especially on your first turn. This is another deck where Soul Charge does a lot of work. Because of Alphan, you often wind up with 1 pilot on the field and 2 in the graveyard. And if that's the case and you have Soul Charge, well, you're getting all those pilots back and getting their effects. And if you have Magna Carrier, you're going to summon Great Magnus that turn. Foolish Burial sends things straight to the graveyard to set off their effects. And continuing on in the traps, we've got more cards that are going to special summon from the graveyard. 3 Call of the Haunted. Some whole cards to use with Myrmidon, and also Traptrix Ecclesia, which is in the extra deck. Bottomless and 2 copies of Time Space. Time Space in particular, very good against both Cosmo and Pendulum decks. 2 copies of Solemn Strike, 1 Solemn Warning, and 1 Super Quantal Mech Sword Magnus Layer. Magnus Layer is the only, one of the few non-defensive trap cards here, I guess along with Call of the Haunteds. Magnus Layer, when you flip it, it equips itself to one of your Super Quantal Xyz monsters. That monster gains attack points equal to its rank times 100, and then during the battle phase, you can send this card to the graveyard to let that monster attack 3 times. So I'll just let you imagine a 4800 attack Great Magnus attacking once, and then having this sent to the graveyard to have it attack 2 more times for 3600 each. That is a lot of damage, and it's a very easy card to search out of your deck, so it's not out of the realm of possibility to have this happen. It's a little more likely that you'll have it on Magnaliger, though, which will go up to a respectable 3600, while making it so that your opponent can't field a monster. So we play one Great Magnus, probably only going to need to summon it once. In all of our playing here at Konami, Great Magnus has only been defeated once after it was summoned, and that was by an Evil Swarm Thanatos with 3,650 attack points after enough Phantom Knight buffs were put on it. 2 Ouroboros. Oh, and did I mention that it doesn't matter if it's defeated because it just splits back up into the 3 machines? Because it does! Great Magnus is really great, actually. 2 each of the smaller machines. 2 copies of Norden, 1 for each instant fusion. And then also at rank 3 we have both Dante and the Phantom Knights of Break Sword. At rank 4 we also have Diamond Direwolf and Traptrix Ecclesium. At rank 5 we also have Volcasaurus, which seems like it might be a little redundant with Magnaliger, but don't forget that Volcasaurus does damage equal to the attack points of the monster that it destroys. But it can't attack directly afterwards, so you'll want to upgrade it to Gaia Dragon the Thunder Charger, which can. There's your extra deck. There's a lot of places that you could tweak this. I know that some people like to play only 1 copy of the smaller machines, or at least only 1 copy of Ouroboros. I think that's justifiable, but the only one that I think I'd remain pat on is Magnaliger. Magnaliger is incredibly powerful with the ability to destroy monsters during either player's turn. I don't see myself going less than 2 on that. That about does it. If you think that this is the kind of deck that you want to play, definitely check out Wing Raiders. All of the Super Quantum cards are in there. If you want to see more, subscribe to us on YouTube, Official Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG. Follow us on Facebook, also Official Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG. Or on Twitter at Yu-Gi-Oh!_TCG. We also have a strategy site at Yu-Gi-Oh! -card.com. Have fun, guys.